And it's the same going on in Europe as well. I mean, there's a thing called the Lisbon Treaty that's being introduced, and this is outrageous what they're doing. They're actually bringing back the death penalty, which is absolutely shocking. I mean, when you look at the whole thing and you combine it with the new laws about psychiatry, how they can jail anyone who questions the government, they can jail anyone who's insane, with 2 or 3 signatures. And then you look at the Lisbon Treaty. The Lisbon Treaty is absolutely outrageous. It's reintroducing the death penalty in Europe, and it's doing it in such a way that it can be used in the case of riots and upheaval, okay? And you look at how all these riots started, all these protests. Every single one of them started by the police. If it's not started by the police in full view, then it's agitators that the police have put in the crowd to start throwing rocks at the police and start the riot happening. That's the way it happens. All of these riots are all done by the authorities. The whole thing's orchestrated, every single one of them. So they can simply put a few agitators in the crowd. They can start throwing a few rocks. Then they can condemn anybody who participates to death. All right? This is seriously totalitarian, folks. And if that's not a false reality, well, I don't know what is. And if Codex Alimentarius and these companies like Monsanto wishing to control all seeds isn't a false reality, then I don't know what is. And the only reason this reality persists is because the people agree with it. The people let it happen. If they don't agree with it, well, they don't stop it. They don't stand up and make any noise about it. They just comply with it. Yes, sir, no, sir, 3 bags full, sir. Well, things seriously need to change with that attitude, folks. And the first step to changing it lies with each of you. The battle lies within. I've said this many times as well. The battle lies within. It's a battle of energy. You need to know where you're centered. You need to produce the right energetic state and just go out and deal with the problem. You need to just speak openly and honestly about this situation to people. And don't be intimidated by people. If people try to shout you down or anything like that, just move on to the next person. Don't ever get stressed about it. Just understand that there's a real need here to know the awakening that's growing within yourself and to embrace it and to allow the changes to occur within your own psyche and to remain centered. Like I've said, offer the information to people who will listen, but don't waste time arguing with those who will not, because eventually they will come back and they'll want information, because the more people wake up, the more sheep will follow. That's what sheep will do. They follow. So it's not really that important to spend your time trying to wake up those who are firmly asleep and who are going to be violent and angry in their response to you. Any attempt at that sort of thing, I mean, it's just a waste of time. It's just a waste of time because there's more people around who will listen. So you need to go to those people. And it's extremely important when you're doing this not to come across as fanatical and not to lose sight of your objectivity in dealing with this information. It's very important never to lose sight of the bigger picture and to always be able to present things in a factual manner to people. Always remain calm. It's very hard. I mean, you've got to understand that it's very hard for a lot of people to even begin to understand some of this stuff, because people have spent their whole lives being taught that this is what reality is. And it's very hard for someone to suddenly be told that everything they thought was real about this world is completely false. It's very, very hard information for a lot of people to deal with, and it's quite shocking to a lot of people. And many people will be violently opposed to this information because you're suggesting to them that they're wrong, and they see it as an affront against their ego. Nobody likes to be told they're wrong. So you've got to be very careful with the way you present the information. You've got to do it in a very calm and very rational manner, because otherwise people will see it as an affront. So you've got to be careful with that. But you have to do it anyway, because, as a great man once said, all that is required for the triumph of evil is for good people to do nothing. So don't do nothing, folks. Do something, but make sure it's a positive something. Remember to stay in the correct energetic state. Understand that we're not merely spectators here. You and I, we're not spectators. We're the main event. We, mankind, and the overall experience that we're involved in is the main event. We are what the Creator made to perceive the experience. So rock the boat. It's up to us to rock the boat. Remember, you don't have to be seen as well adjusted, because as Jiddu Krishnamurti said, it's no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. And I honestly could not agree more. I think that people really do need to consider that when they look at themselves and the world they live in, well, they need to consider exactly what they are allowing to occur in this world, very often to occur in their name as well. And remember that the Illuminati, the controllers, the people who are creating this reality that we are all participating in, they know that we create the reality ourselves. So let me ask you a question. If you were a controller and you knew that people create reality themselves, what sort of information would you provide to those people? You would provide the negative information for them to create the negative reality that you want. Because that's a power that's hidden from the human race. It's the knowledge that we have the ability to shape and create any future that we want. And that is why you find so much negative information all the time being presented to you all the time. Even with the people who are awake to what's going on with the New World Order, they only ever get fed the negative information. And there's a reason for this. There's a reason for this, because you've got a certain amount of people in society who are somewhat more enlightened than many of the other members of society who think that everything's just roses the way it is, and they can't see the grand design that goes on behind the curtain. So what you do is you get these people who are enlightened enough to be able to see that something is definitely going on, and you feed these people the right type of information, the information that is going to make them scared, that's going to help create the negative future that you want to foresee. And there's a disaster movie coming out this year in June, $200 million, some ridiculous amount of money they're spending on this film. And it's all about the end of the world in 2012. You know, we're going to have a major pole shift, and we're going to have complete and utter disaster in 2012. There's all sorts of information about this on the web at the moment. And this is, of course, to help create that future. If enough people believe that the world's going to end in 2012, well, the world will end in 2012. We will make it end by our collective consciousness. That's how it works. And there's a lot of reasons why certain people might want that sort of thing to happen. Because, I mean, they've got their underground bases. They've got all sorts of setup where they're going to be safe no matter what happens. So they try to get the people that are running around on the surface, the little people, you and I, to create the future that they want. There's a reason for it, folks. You've got to look at the reason. You've got to understand how it works. The power of attraction really is legitimate energy. It really is a legitimate power that we all have. You must have seen it in your own life. You know, if you start dwelling on bad things, well, bad things happen. That's just the way it works. But if you dwell on good things and you see the information, the negative information, as purely just information, not good or bad or anything, just information, and you let it empower you as knowledge should, then you can create a completely different future. You know, because when you think of good things and you dwell on good things happen. The same as bad things happen when you dwell on bad things. It's very important information, and it's quite empowering to actually know this and to know how it works. And it does work, folks. So you've got to be very careful of the energy that you're channeling. You've got to look at what's going on in the world, and you've got to stand up and you've got to make noise about it. But you can't do it from a state of hatred. You can't do it from a state of fear. You've got to do it from a state of love and understanding. You know, understand the information, understand what it means to you, understand what this reality truly is, and deal with it in the correct way. It's not hard to do, folks. Once you've found your center, it's quite easy to maintain that center. Now, you'll find that when you do get uncentered, when you do start losing the plot and you start getting a little bit negative about things again, you'll find that there's usually something going on around you that is causing that. It's usually something on a personal level. Very often, it's a mirror that is looking back at you in your life. It might be another person. You might be seeing parts of yourself that you find you're having trouble dealing with in another person. You might find there's certain things going on in your life that are reflecting something about yourself that you find it hard to deal with. You'll find that a lot of things that happen in your life are actually mirrors. And you can use these negative occurrences and these times of negative energy You can use them to look within yourself and usually find out things about yourself that sometimes you may not want to have faced. That is just a positive way of looking at it. And it can be very empowering. Again, it can be very empowering, realizing that these things are simply mirrors of the soul. And it's information that you need to know about yourself.